Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mary Cortani.
All right, CJ. Buddy, down. All the way down. Down. So, good evening. And I have to start off with, Shannon, that was amazing. And while I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, somebody put words to my life. Because everything you said in there was kind of what happened, right? So I'm a veteran myself. I served at the tail end of the Vietnam era. I'm one of the last of the WACs. That was the Women's Army Corps. And then they blended the Women's Army Corps with the Army, and it became the Army. And it doesn't matter your political affiliation, settle, or your belief system, religious, none of that matters. What matters is humanity. What matters is compassion, caring for one another, right? And it's funny because people join the military for different reasons, you know, and it changes throughout the ages, whether it's about patriotism, about following in the family tradition of serving, but more than not, especially in today's age, it's about, thank you, buddy, it's about taking and finding a place to belong, right? Getting out of where you're currently at. CJ, down. All the way. I know. And that place to belong can be the military. It can be college. Sometimes it's gangs, right? It's all over the place, but we're all searching for it. And even if we come from a great family with great support, we're still looking for that place to belong. And so that's what Shannon was talking about, right? What's our story? And it's kind of amazing because I served, yes, okay. Excuse me, I'm going to sit for a minute because CJ's telling me I'm having a little bit of trouble here. So I'm going to tell you a story about him and then I'll go back to my story. So he's my personal dog and he has 2 jobs. I got him specifically to do wilderness search and rescue with. So he is a wilderness SAR dog who will find somebody who's lost out in the woods. And then my story changed. I was going to do SAR. That was, you know, dog training, search and rescue, that was my passion. And that call from that Marine came that changed my life forever. And having career changes. You know, I got out of the military after 9 years. I didn't know what I was going to do. Went to school, got into high tech, started managing IT departments. And so life, constant change, right? And the acceptance of that change and kind of riding that roller coaster and just going with it. And so when I had another one of those major life changes in 2001, I was like, what the heck? It wasn't just a challenge. It was, what am I going to do? I'm older, okay? I'm not that young kid. I can't reinvent myself. And so I went back to my passion. I trained dogs in the military. I was one of the first Army female to be accepted into the Canine Corps and to be asked to be an instructor. So I got to train all the branches of the service. And so when this life event occurred again in 2001, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go back to do what I love to do. I'm done with high tech. I'm done with the rat race and the 14, 16-hour days. And I was lost, right? And I went back into dog training because it was something I knew, something I felt I was good at. And that led to struggles with family and finances and all of the stuff that goes along with life. But I was doing pretty good at it. And that call from that Marine. And if you've ever talked to somebody who is at that last moment where they're seeking help and they're desperate and they don't know where else to turn because the system that they served CJ down. Hey, down. Good boy for smelling the flowers. They're not real. Yeah, stay. Let him down. And there wasn't support. And he had been on a waiting list. He had applied to traditional service dog organizations. And the list was long. There was no such thing as a post-traumatic stress dog. Psychiatric service dogs were a little bit there, right? And I knew in that moment that I had to do something. I had to take my experience as a veteran because I could talk his language, even though we were from different eras. And I had to take my experience with dogs, because what I did in the service was I trained narcotic and explosive detection dogs. So I understood scent work, kind of fits with the search and rescue world, got to understand scent work. And I got to figure a way to solve this. And then I started diving into, I had no clue what post-traumatic stress was or what issues our veterans were facing coming home, right? And it wasn't just the guys. And guess what? It's not just the current conflict. It wasn't just Iraq and Afghanistan. And the more I dived into it, the numbers were astounding. And the 22, 24 suicides a death. And oh, by the way, it wasn't just post-traumatic stress. It was also military sexual trauma and traumatic brain injuries and mobility assistance. And then I looked at the traditional model and the breeding model, and it was like, well, you know, when I was in the service, we went to shelters. We went into the community and we put this poster up that said, Uncle Sam wants your dog, right? I'm serious. That's what was happening in the 70s. And it was like, well, if I learned how to evaluate the dogs for police work and sentry work and narcotics work and explosive detection work, why couldn't I change what I was doing and look at the skill sets that were required and the personality and the drive for one of those dogs to become a service dog, right? And then what disciplines and what things need to be different to take and modify their natural instinctive behaviors, okay? That's what started this. That started in January of 2010. Here we are, and for the first year and a half, thank God my partner Nicole is the amazing woman that she is, because for that first year and a half, there was no money coming in. Everything was going, right? It was all coming out of savings and family and friends and keeping it going. And thank God another friend said, you better form a nonprofit because you're not going to keep this going at the rate you're going. And we did that. And we formed that, and we were a nonprofit in September of 2011, right? So here we are. We just celebrated our 3rd anniversary as a nonprofit. Well, then this amazing roller coaster ride happened, and a woman who had been observing this, that was just coming to class to train her dog for obedience, right, nominates me to be a CNN hero. And that journey started. And it was a roller coaster. It was a whirlwind. And then comes along, September again, and they go into the top 10 voting. Next thing you know, and it's one of those moments of, oh my God, what if that happens? Oh, really? It could happen? Right? Sure as heck, I made it into the top 10. And then I had an amazing opportunity to spend time with the other 9 top 10 CNN heroes. And then a blessing, I get to go to the, yeah, it was. You tell them. You tell them. I get to go to, CJ, sit. Hey, sit. I know. Sit. Thank you. I get to go and attend the Annenberg Alchemy nonprofit training, right? I was like, okay, thank you, universe, because you just provided that, because this whole nonprofit thing is brand new to me, right? And there it was. So I put it out there, and the answers come. And the gifts that keep on giving are my interaction with our clients every single day. You know, it started with the one Marine, quickly became 3, quickly became 10, and here we are, 4.5 years later, basically, with 174 clients, 85% of which are veterans, the other 15% are civilians, and kids. And kids that couldn't get a dog from a traditional organization. Okay? And I've got 85 applications on my desk. The demand's not going away. If I look at just the veteran numbers, there's still 2 million out there that need help. And the VA and the government's not going to be the answers. Service dogs are one tool in the tool belt. It is not the end-all be-all. It is something to help them get through and be able to create a new normal. And that's what we talk about. Okay? And what our program at Operation Freedom Paws is about involving the family. Because when we take and we look at the mind, body, and the soul and bring the family into it, CJ, down. Oliver, come here. Right, enough. Down. Down. Thank you. Much better. Then we can take, and CJ, down. Yes, down. So that's a little bit of obedient disobedience, just to let you know. So I got flustered, okay? And my chemistry, when I got flustered, changed. So he's been trained in service dog tasks, and that was his telling me to come back, pay attention, be in the moment. And that's one of the amazing gifts. The canine-human relationship, if we tap into their natural innate abilities, is an amazing, amazing thing. You know, you look around today and we're honored. We have a guide dog. Guide dogs started it all for service dogs, right? Dogs have been working throughout history. And that bond is something that we need to recognize and acknowledge. But back to what I was saying about, you know, the program. The heart, the mind, and the soul. We don't just take and give somebody a service dog. It's the old Chinese proverb, if I teach you to fish, you'll eat for a lifetime. If I give you a fish, you'll only eat for a day. Our program is 48 weeks long, can be longer depending on the disability or the injury that our client has. We don't give them a trained dog. We train them to train their own dog. That in turn gives them other life skills. It involves their family. We make sure that there's consistency in the message and how we communicate. So I know there's a few dog owners out here, but how many of you are dog owners? Yeah, okay. So you know that they give you unconditional love, right? You know that they don't judge you, okay? Well, guess what? We are a visual society, right? And back to your point, we judge everything, right? Because we're visual and we don't stop to feel and see. How about if for just one moment we stopped and we looked through the world through their eyes? It'd be amazing, right? But there's something that's even more amazing. As humans, when we domesticate these guys, we teach them to use their eyes. Eyes is their third sense. Their first sense is their sense of smell. And if you ever just sit back and watch dogs out walking around, 9 out of 10 of them will walk around with their mouths open and their heads are darting, right? Those that have their mouths closed and walk with their mouths closed are actually using their nose. Have you ever stopped to look at a dog's nose? Really look at it? Okay, for just a moment, everybody close your mouth, take a deep breath, breathe in through your nostrils and breathe out through your nostrils. Now, take a deep breath, breathe in through your nostrils, but breathe out through your mouth. Okay? A dog's nose has 2 nostrils and 2 slits. They are breathing in and out non-stop at the same time. If you watch when they're reading what we call P-mail, as they're going along, right? Watch the little flap. It wiggles, right? Because the intensity of their sniffing has increased. That's for a dog who's actually using his nose. Every dog will use its nose to read P-mail, but stop the rest of the time because it's natural instinct to do that, okay? we're creating a situation where they're hypervigilant. Just like somebody with an invisible disability or wound, like post-traumatic stress, right? Trauma's trauma. And we're turning off their noses. So when we go out and we get dogs, we look for them to be able to turn their noses back on. And we play games to find that out. They go through a process where we evaluate for 30 different things to see what kind of a service dog are they going to be. Are they going to be a psychiatric service dog? Are they going to be a diabetes detection? Are they going to be epilepsy? Are they going to be mobility? Are they going to be a combination? Because you don't just have one thing, right? And then we teach our clients how to read and understand what intelligent, obedient disobedience is. Because just like CJ now is very calm and relaxed, right? I regrounded myself, okay? I went back to being okay. Actually, something got his attention back there. So, but when I wasn't okay, and I wasn't in that space, that was that intelligent, obedient disobedience that he's like, hey, Mom, you know, right here, we're good, check in. And that's what I needed to do, right? Imagine if we all did that as the stresses throughout the day, whether we had a dog or we didn't have a dog. And there's a lot of different techniques. But, and I think my time's probably my internal clock, right? You know, but stop, watch them. They communicate through body language. And if we can observe, we also communicate through body language. There's a lot to learn just by observing them and having them be part of our lives. So, thank you.